Laurie Huston's News for the Heart is dedicated to helping you give a voice to your own soul. Our hearts have the power to free us from pain and the struggles that keep us from awakening to our true essence. Join Laurie now as we delve into our heart and soul to find the path that will open us to the possibilities and lead us to the life we love to live.
Good afternoon. This is News for the Heart. And today is the second Tuesday of the month, which means I have my awesome co-host, Tracy McBurney, with me. We've had some pretty interesting shows lately. I think they've been some pretty powerful ones. And I don't doubt today's going to be another one. I think we're going to start off with anxiety, but welcome to the show, Trace.
So we're going to start out with our feeling of anxiety. When we were talking before the show started, I felt like this would be a good topic to step into today. I've certainly had a few of these moments myself over the last little while, and I certainly have been working to be helpful to clients for exactly the same thing. So let's kind of dig in a bit.
Okay.
So first off, I will say Dr. Karen Kan, I want to say Khan, but it's not. It's Dr. Karen Kan, who is currently right now somebody that I am doing some online work with. So let's call her a new mentor coming into my world. She's a medical doctor, and so it's interesting. It's interesting to listen to her Academy of Light Medicine courses with a medical doctor's perspective. So she's not working as a medical doctor anymore. But she certainly has come from that wheelhouse. And so it's very interesting to see everything that she's explored, which I love that she's done. And then the world that she came from. So she says to us a couple of weeks ago, anxiety is not just an emotional issue.
Yeah.
And most doctors have no concept of that, that anxiety is not just an emotional issue. And I did have a concept of that. And I did have a bigger concept of us in whatever the emotion is that we're in. So some of the stuff that she was bringing up wasn't new to me, but I thought she did a really good job of kind of putting it all in a beautiful basket. So here we are with this emotion or this feeling inside of us of anxiety. And I think I've said this in other calls. Most sensitive people, I'm surrounded by sensitive people. I'm surrounded by sensitive people that either recognize about themselves that they are that or don't. But mostly the people that I'm around a lot of the time are sensitive people. And so I think a really important question when you're feeling that feeling or something that feels similar to that feeling, or fearfulness, anxiety, any feeling, is it mine? Is it mine? It's a really good first question.
Yeah.
Is this mine? And especially for people that know themselves as sensitive, know themselves as empathetic, can recognize they wear their heart on their sleeve, can recognize that they pick up other people's stuff pretty easily. It's a great question. Is it mine?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer comes back, yeah, like if you get the confirmation, yeah, it is mine, great. Then where's it coming from? If it is mine, then where's it coming from? Is it actually coming from the physical body? Is this feeling, I say anxiety, but it can be any feeling, sadness, fearfulness, sorrow. Is it actually coming from my physical body? Is it actually part of my physical body? Well, yes, it is. In this particular case, yes, it is. All right. Do I need to know more? Do I need to know more about this? Because sometimes we do need to know more. So the anxiety, the sadness, the fearfulness, whatever that is, coming from a particular organ of the body, coming from a particular part of the body, coming from a particular endocrine, which are the glands of the body, coming from a certain tissue. So we find that out. Okay, interesting. It is me, and it's coming from this area of my body. My my uterus area is anxious. My uterus area is anxious. My uterus area is fearful. Interesting. Do I need to know more than that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. She brings up an amazing piece in the biological. So the biological anxiety, the biological emotion of anxiety, for example, she brings forward gut brain, microbiome, the microbiome, which is the whole microbiome of the bacterias, which can be the bacterias, the parasites, the funguses, all the stuff that makes up the microbiome, which are trillions of little organisms that live within us that have a symbiotic relationship with us that we are either in harmony with or we're not. And if we're not in harmony with some of them, maybe that's where the anxiety is coming from. I remember having a really, really interesting session with a client in my office last week or the week before. They were anxious, and we were able to figure out that the anxiety was coming from a parasite. And it was a parasite in the gut. And when you sat there just with the parasite, she thought I was crazy. We're going to sit with the consciousness of this parasite. Well, why would we want to do that? Everything has consciousness. Because I want to ask a question. Now, we can do that from muscle testing, or we can do that from using the body as a pendulum, or actually using a pendulum. But fundamentally, to do that, as I described to her, if she's doing that on her own, she really has to have a clear idea of what her yes is, right, what her no is, what is truth, what is not truth. And I was literally showing this or reminding her again about this, like, just close your eyes, say your name. Just say your name. My name is Tracy McBurney. There's a feeling to that. Unless you've shut down the feeling, there's a feeling to truth. There's a visual to truth. Like, I'm not necessarily a visual person, but I do say to people, shut your eyes, because maybe they are. Maybe they're going to see the color of truth. Maybe they're going to see the picture of truth. I get the feeling of truth. Truth flows through me like a beautiful, gentle river, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down until it gets into the earth. That's what truth feels like to me. And lie feels very different. My name is Sarah Pickle.
Poor Sarah.
Poor Sarah. My name is Sarah Pickle. And my name is not Sarah Pickle. I pick something fun, foolish, whatever it is, fundamentally because I want to feel the difference, see the difference in color, see the difference in picture. Some of the clients see sacred geometry patterns.
Interesting.
So everybody's different, but everybody knows their name. Everybody knows their name. And so I just challenge people to sit with that for a second. Just be with yourself and really get clear about what truth feels like as it flows with you, as you see it, and what the lie feels like. And if you have to go back and do that 50 times a day, every day, until you really get it, that's fine.
That's a good idea.
Right? And I'm always going back to check it. Like, even halfway through a session, I'm going back just to check whether I'm in line with truth, whether I'm in line with lie, whether I'm still with myself. Right? Just to check up on things until I don't feel I need to check up on them. So here we were, and I was teaching her this truth, this lie, so she could play with me. And she could potentially do this for herself, even though she thought, I think I'm going to need somebody to hold my hand if I'm ever talking to a parasite again. Would you mind? And I'm like, no problem. Always happy to hold your hand when you're talking to a parasite. Or when you're talking to an entity. Well, I don't want to talk to an entity. Fine. I don't have judgment of them. So the difference between you and me is I don't have judgment of them. Right? So that, and with no judgment of any of that, I can stay clearer. I can just stay clearer. It's like, you're not going to hurt me. But I am interested in why you're here. Like, how did you get here? What are you holding on to? What are you eating? What are you anchored to? Right? So in this particular instance, the parasite did not want to be in her body. did not want to be in her body at all. And it was probably, quite honestly, because it was a pretty healthy body. It was a healthy body. Like, there wasn't a lot of food that this person was eating that this parasite wanted to eat. Like, it's just like, there's nothing here for me. Like, I'm dying here. I'm starving here. Like, I don't want to be here. Mm. So there's this anxiety that's rising because it didn't want to be there. Mm. And she didn't want it there.
Of course.
So then she's like, so now it's stuck. Now what do we do? And I say, well, it depends on how open-minded you are. She said, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, parasite is matter. I asked, is this matter? Is this a physical parasite in the body? Yes, it is, because we could have energy parasites. You can have energy parasites that are in the fields. They can be equally problematic in the fields to the gut, equally nauseating to the gut, but they're energy parasites. They're not manifesting in physical form. They're not formed into particle. They're just in wave form, but they're creating havoc in the gut. They're creating havoc in the system, but not at a physical level. But this one was a physical parasite coming into the physical body, and it did not want to be stuck where it was, and it couldn't get out. And it wanted to get out.
Interesting.
So, okay, parasite. So this is what it is. So I'm giving almost like a quantum physics lesson to a parasite and to my client. And of course, am I a specialist in quantum physics? Hell no. Hell no. I know like the tiniest little bit. Every time I get online, anytime I listen to anything that Greg Braden has to say or any of his buddies, I'm going, oh my God, it's like my brain hurts. But I can get a couple of the concepts. And so one of the quantum physics concepts, going right back to Albert Einstein, all matter is energy. And all matter has an etheric field. And all matter is densely packed light. So I'm saying to this parasite, did you know that you're densely packed light? You're matter. You're existing as matter. You're all formed up in the particle. You are densely packed light. And I'm explaining to the parasite that she has this divine light aspect within her. She's got this source divine light technology within her. So the quickest way to do this, parasite, the quickest way, where there's no death for you, where she doesn't have to endure all the chemicals that you're going to be putting into her system while you're dying slowly. And she doesn't have to take all the capsules to kind of make that happen. And you don't have to endure that. And she doesn't have to endure that. The quickest way to do that is light to light. Light to light transmutation. Where you just fly out. And how do you feel about that parasite? If we just let her light flood in to meet your light, and then off you went. Off you went. Right out of this body. Like, I could say something like Star Trek, like beam somewhere, but that was too much for the parasite to really get the concept of. And so that's what the parasite agreed to do.
Huh.
Like, it didn't want to die.
Right.
It didn't want to die. It wanted to live. And so, okay, well, she doesn't want to take all these capsules. She doesn't want to do all of this. She doesn't want you pooing all of this stuff out while you're dying. She just doesn't want to endure that. You don't want to endure that. So that's great. Let's let the light join and let the light take care of that and just get you on your way, just flying out with light. And so that's what we did.
Wow.
And in that particular case, the anxiety was gone because all of the anxiety, 100% of the anxiety was coming from that parasite that did not want to be where it was.
That's crazy. I mean, it's great, but crazy.
And she thought it was a little interesting too. But at the end of the day, she was in agreement to work with that. She was in agreement to work with that divine light within herself, even though she had no concept of it. So to me, it was like part of the quantum physics piece is intention.
Right.
It's our intention. It's our intention to turn to something within us. It's our intention, even if we don't believe it. It's not about believing it. That exists whether you believe it or whether you don't. So it's not really about believing it. It's about an intention to say, I am willing to try this. I am willing to go here. I'm willing to allow this to happen. So if this can happen, as long as, and I've said this before on many different times, as long as it's safe, appropriate, and highest and best interest of the all, which is the cover your ass affirmation for do no harm to you or anybody else because you're part of the all, then we're willing to allow this to happen. We're willing to be part of this experiment. And so all went well and anxiety was relieved.
I'm just going to say, because I mean, this is part of what you do. Like you have all the kits for parasites. You have all the things.
Oh yeah.
People, right. Like that's what you do. So
and you know what? It's brutal. It's brutal to holding somebody's hand through a parasite cleanse. I can't stand it. It's like, could we please get you to be supported by somebody else? Because it really is difficult. It really is difficult because it's not nice. It's not nice. You feel nauseated. You feel drained. You feel all sorts of things for the first 5 or 6 days of a real parasite cleanse if you really have those. And it's problematic and they're not really cooperating. And there's a lot of resistance. Then you have a lot of debris chemicals that are sitting in the bloodstream. I mean, it's not nice. It's not nice. So I prefer working with more open-minded clients that are at least willing to experiment with working with their light within to see how this goes first. Let's just see how this goes first and see if we need to do something else, or open-minded enough to do a biofeedback, so that we can get this taken care of in that sort of way, which is the same thing. It's energy meeting energy, light meeting light, and everything resolving itself in a much nicer, more graceful, more delicious way. So yeah, it's probably a self-preservation thing that I find these things. It's like, I really, really, really don't want to be part of that much for myself or for somebody else. I'd really like to find easier, more graceful, more delicious. Is there something better? Is there something better? Like it probably, half of my practice has probably come from my sitting there with my hands open going, is there something better? Is there something better? So yeah. So anyway, but it's nice to sit with that, part of this problem could be a microbiome problem. And sometimes it's not energetic fix with an affirmation. It's actually really recognizing I need some probiotics. I need some prebiotic to feed these probiotics. Like they're hungry. They're good little guys, but they're hungry. Like they're not getting fed the kinds of things that they like to be fed. And they're getting a little anxious about this because they're dying.
Interesting. Yeah.
And this could be some of our anxiety, like collective anxiety. Like we're getting a little anxious about this because we're dying. We're feeling like we're dying. We're feeling like there's so much stuff coming down on us and so much stuff from everywhere that's bringing us into more fear, or trying to bring us into more fear and more anger and more upset and more disconnection and more separation. And so we're feeling like we're dying. And anything that's feeling like it's dying can end up in an anxious state.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So yeah. So I like that. She brings up other things in the biology of us, like the biological us, and where that anxiety might be coming from a biological standpoint. She brings to our attention environmental, which I'm incredibly well aware of. The environmental electromagnetic nightmare, like I'm highly sensitive to electromagnetic stuff, which makes me more sensitive to ghosts in a house, for example, because they're electromagnetic and you can't see them. For the most part, most people can't. Took me a bit of time to realize in the last couple of weeks that I am having some sensitivity issues to my newer car.
Oh,
So I have one of these hybrid cars, and so happy to have been, my mother gave me this as a gift, and I won't get into the story of that, but it's a funny story. But so here I am with this new car, and it's a year old, and it took me this long to figure out that one of the reasons why some of the numbness was happening in my legs within about 15 or 20 minutes of driving had to do with my sensitivity to the car,
wow.
to the electromagnetics of the car, and probably more specifically the battery of this car. And it was almost like a light bulb just went off. It was like, holy crap, why did I not think about this? Like, this is a bigger battery. I never really did any really looking at this, but I'm so sensitive sometimes to things like batteries. I don't wear a watch. The little battery in a watch, and I don't wear that. And I'm sitting here with my legs kind of right underneath. The battery is like right there. And I'm like, wow. And so I love Albert Einstein. He was so upset about 100 years ago because children were not being taught the power of their imagination, and they weren't being taught about that higher intelligence within themselves. And so I was sitting there driving the car a couple of weeks ago when this first dawned on me, and I was like, why did it take so long for this to dawn on me, that I might be really electromagnetically sensitive to my car? Like, why did this take so long? Well, denial, distortion, delusion, need to deceive, wishy-washy thinking, needing to make up stories, stay in old stories, or deletions. That's why it took that long. Because why would I want to recognize that? Oh, this is my new car. Why would I want to recognize that? Why would I want to have a problem with my new car? Why would I want to have something going on that meant it was becoming impossible for me to drive? Nope. Denial, distortion, delusion, need to deceive, no, push away that truth. We do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Push away the truth that we don't want to sit with. And so then there it came, because I was doing some prayers into the sky and saying, that's it. I am ready. I am ready. I am ready for all of the reasons to fall in for what's going on here with this numbness and blah, 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 blah in my legs. And more specifically in my left leg. I am ready. I am ready for all the answers to reveal, because I'm not mucking around now. Because I want to get back to walking. I want to get back to walking quickly. I want to get back to being fully mobile. And so I am ready. Powerful affirmation into the universe. So even when you don't want to know the truth about something, it's going to fall in, because you said, I am ready, to the universe. And the universe is like, well, aye, Captain, we're going to let it fall then. Even though you've had all this resistance. Very powerful. So I'm sure that's why this all of a sudden was part of my awareness. Like, all of a sudden when I'm driving, it's like, bing, and I'm like, one of these HSOMG moments stands for holy shit, oh my God. And I'm like, holy shit, oh my God, I can't believe that I didn't see this. I didn't see this because I didn't want to see this.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, now here I am driving. I know this is the truth. I know I'm having some sort of extra sensory, issue with my own car, and I'm driving, and I've got another 45 minutes of driving, and I'm already starting to feel this numbness going down my left leg. So what am I going to do? Well, power of imagination. First, brain kicks in and remembers something. Power of imagination, connecting into that divine intelligence, and eureka, I'm sitting here with a solution. There is something that this company, which I believe is Safe Space, I believe it's safespace.com, but don't quote me on it, but I think it is safespace.com. And they have a technology for the car that's supposed to help to bring harmonization to you and all of the electromagnetic stuff safely within the car. And I don't own one of those, but I'm thinking about this. My brain remembers. I'm sitting there driving the car, and I'm going, well, that seems right. So now what? All right. doing a prayer to the universe, saying, thank you, universe. Thank you, universe, for duplicating, fully duplicating, as long as it's safe, appropriate, and highest and best interest. And I have permission spiritually from all that created that device, which I did. I had permission spiritually from everything that created that device, because I wouldn't want to do it any other way. My father was in patents and trademarks for his whole life. So now I'm duplicating something and I don't have any conscious permission. And I asked that contraption, that or better, because what I wanted was something coming into my car, created by those beautiful beings of pure love and light, that was going to do the exact same thing or better that the safe space people had for their cars. And I could feel it come in. I could totally feel it come in. And I could totally feel the shift in my car. And I was so grateful to my brain, to my imagination, to this universe, to the safe space people, for their generosity of spirit. Because it would not have happened if they had not been that. Right. So if that company was all about greed, if that company was all about just making money, if that company was all about that, it would not have fallen that way. So I put I don't know what to say, just a blessing back to them. And I always say that, like I have every intention of purchasing one of those units, because that is the right thing to do.
Yes, you got me to do one. I got one.
Not just create it from imagination, because that company exists and I would like that company to continue to exist. But also to return blessings to them, which is always like, so if I create something from nothing that comes from somebody else's beautiful inventorship, and I need to duplicate it and put it somewhere, and then I'm always sending blessings back, blessings that are much more than would ever be received just by the $99 or $89 or whatever that is that I would pay for that.
A little bit more now, but yeah.
And thanking the universe for taking care of that so that the circle is closed. And it worked beautifully. And I was so grateful because I also got to feel some of the numbness, not all of it, but some of the numbness leaving my left leg. And just kind of a lessening of tension that I hadn't really realized was there in my body while I was driving, and now it wasn't there. And I thought, wow. So I was just living with that tension. And so maybe we don't necessarily call it anxiety. Maybe we just call it tension. Just this tension that we're always with, that always seems to be with us now. I know I feel it very acutely in various areas of Toronto. Toronto doesn't even feel like my city much anymore. And I think it's because of all of the electromagnetic craziness that's going on in the web that they've put here. But I remember walking from a talk. We were at a Marianne Williamson's talk 6 months ago or so. I was there with some friends. And myself and another woman were walking to Union Station to get on the subway to go east, because we were both going back home the same place. And it was an amazing journey walking down Front Street to get back to Union Station. It was an amazing electromagnetic journey, because as I was walking down that sidewalk, so it would be the south sidewalk, so I can't speak about the north sidewalk, but the south sidewalk where some of the hotels are, same side that the post office is in, and the same side that Union Station is on, that side. As I was walking along with this person, and we're both sensitive, I was right at the corner of Front Street and University Avenue. And as I crossed over, I went, oh, this is the old Toronto. Now I'm walking the old Toronto. Can you feel it? And she says, yeah, I can feel a difference. You're calling it the old Toronto? And I'm like, yeah, because it's not, there's no electromagnetic anything right here. I can't explain it. And then we got about a half a block more on Front Street and it all went nuts.
Yeah.
It was all, and it was just like, and she was like, wow. And then it dipped again. And I said, as it dipped again, it was like, oh, we're back in old Toronto again. This is my city. This is my city. If I could just stand here. Like, can I just stand here for a second before we go walking into more craziness? Because this is the city that I loved.
Yeah.
This is the city that I loved. And as we're just about going to walk another block, I would suspect I'm going to come walking into the city that I'm starting to really not love at all. In fact, not even just not love, just not like.
Yeah.
And I could feel the shifts all the way along Front Street. Now that was 6 months ago. I would suspect that it's going to be the same, and I should do it again, because what I'd really like to do is just stand. It almost wants to make me cry that I could just want to stand in one of those spots that was the Toronto that I loved. Because the Toronto that I loved is gone. It's gone, and I suspect that it's not coming back ever because of what's going on with the electromagnetic craziness that is part of our city. And it took me a while to figure out that some of the anxiety that I would feel sometimes when I was driving didn't have anything to do with an almost car accident that I had almost 10 years ago. It had to do with electromagnetics. It had to do with the things that the city of Toronto was doing. What kind of electromagnetics do you have to put up to be able to have the automatic cameras taking pictures at the intersections of people that are getting through the red lights, or the automatic cameras that are taking pictures of the speeders as they're coming along these roads? Like, what kind of electromagnetic infrastructure is in place that my body's picking up, or that somebody else's body's picking up, that's delivering us increased tension? So then we might say to ourselves, Toronto's getting uglier. Toronto's getting uglier. Toronto's mean. Toronto's a meaner city than it was. And why would we say that? Because it feels that way. Because we're so tense now. Because there's so much tension. And why is there so much tension? Because we're dealing with so much more electromagnetic stuff. And there's a lot of people that would just poo-poo that. Right? But the moment that you take it all away, the moment that all the lights go out, is the moment that you sit there and go, wow. It's just like everything just felt like it drops. The last time we all lost the power in the city, and it just felt like everything just dropped a full story.
Such a great night.
Right?
Right?
Yeah, it was a great night. And people would go, it was a great night. Well, why because then you're talking to your neighbors. And no, but it was also a great night because the tension was gone.
That always persistent buzz.
Right.
Right? When that's gone, it's like, oh, you just breathe differently. You just like, whoa, that feels so different.
Right. And what about the stuff that doesn't even have a buzz? It doesn't even have a sound.
Yeah.
But it's creating that stress.
Right. That's the electromagnetic. Yeah. That's the cell towers that we have all over the place now.
Right. And then she doesn't mention it. Maybe she does, because I bought the course. I bought the little course that she designed. I thought it was a very reasonable price. So if you didn't want to be part of her offer for the 4 live classes where you could see how she worked in her practice with all of this, that was $147 US. But because I'm already in part of her larger class and I'm already doing a lot of the live stuff, I didn't feel like I needed that. I kind of get her work. I understand how she works. In fact, there was one day where I said, you and I, we've been working with the same muse. We've been working with the same spiritual teachers, because the way that you've designed your practice and the way that you're working with people is very similar to mine. And the affirmation that you're using to clear things is hugely similar to the one that I was given. So I just think it's really interesting that I think we're coming from the same fabric.
So you got
so her offer for the people that don't want to be part of that greater offering of the live classes is a $99 amount of money. And what she has more generously done is said anybody in the same household, who lives in the same house, who wants to be a part of this class, she has no issue with that. So it really is. And so I started to send that out to some of my clients who had families of children who actually have been quite anxious through this whole pandemic, have been quite anxious as children, maybe before this. And I felt very pleased to have sent that out to them to say, look, I know one of your children's in university right now, just coming back, and she's just opened the door to say, let them have the course. They're living in the same house. They're living in the same household. They're part of it. Just let them have the course too. And I thought for $99 US, that was a really cool thing to do. Yeah. So I don't consider that to be expensive. And she breaks her little offering up, her little course up into explaining the 4 different places where she sees anxiety emanating from. And like I said, the 2 that I wanted to speak about today were the one that was just biology, the biological pieces where anxiety might be arising from, and the environmental ones. But she also includes spiritual, and she also includes, which can be entity based, right? Some weird woohoo things. And then dimensional. She brings in the dimensional piece because that is something that is really dogging people, in certain instances, especially when you have people that are saying, I want to get out of Canada. I want to get off the world. I want to go live somewhere else other than this world. I can't deal with this world. So what are they susceptible to? Opening their world up to other dimensions, skipping into other dimensions, opening doors to other dimensions because they don't want to be here. There's nowhere here that they want to live. There's nowhere here that they can see that they can live. So they then become very susceptible to the opening of the doors of dimensions. And it's interesting to see that you've got the Marvel comics opening this concept of multidimensional and altered dimensions. You've got the movie of the year, which we could talk, the Academy Award-winning movie of this year, whose title of name always, I can't even remember it. Everything, all the time, I don't know, whatever it is. Everything, all the time, always, everywhere, I don't know, whatever. The Academy Award-winning movie of the year that is all about dimensions and is all about the opening of dimensions. And my son and I were in quite a heated little discussion about it. He's 24, I'm 59, and I was in a big discussion of being very troubled by that movie winning as the Academy Award-winning movie, because to me it was like, what are we valuing? To me, it was all about values. What are we valuing? If we're going to give that movie the award, like, what are we valuing? How did this get the award? This is a B movie. This is a beautiful Jamie Lee Curtis B movie, was my thought. But take all of that aside, look what the content of the movie is. It's all dimensional. And it's interesting as they invite you into the concept of us as multidimensional beings. It's multidimensional beings at war. You open up one of those dimensions, then you are at war with whatever it is that's there. And maybe you're going there to grab the gift that is your gift, but you're at war doing it. It's like, wow, and blood and guts and all sorts of craziness. And I'm like, interesting that, that it's war and that the concept is war and that it's all so negative.
Right. But everything, everywhere, all at once.
Thank you. But once the big ad, that it seems to be my resistance altogether for all of it.
Oh, I've seen the title. I've saw it at the Fox. I thought, I should maybe see this, but now that you're saying what it's about, I'm like, yeah, that's a reason why I didn't.
Well, I think it opens up the conversation, right? It opens up the conversation because that's what's happening, is that we are opening up to these places. and we don't know that we're opening up to these places. Right? So part of what was going on with my knee was I didn't know that you could have, this is another HSOMG moment has been a part of my left knee. I didn't know that you could have an autoimmunity issue that was a dimensional issue. Like once you close the door to that dimension, you didn't have the autoimmune issue anymore that's impacting your knee or the rest of your body. All you needed to do was close that door, or all you needed to do was fire snowballs of divine light right into that dimension and close that door. So then you're saying, well, how did you get there, Trace? Well, that was my imagination. There was a lot going on in that dimension that I was not to be involved with, but I got involved with. And so because it was hard for me to leave, that was one of the things that was problematic, is that once I got involved with that dimension and got involved with all the problems in that dimension, it was hard for me to leave those people that were having such a problem. But it was not in my highest and best interest to stay, and it was not in my highest and best interest to continue to leave the door open. And so I just kind of sat there and went, no, I can't leave. I can't leave this way. I can't leave knowing what I know. I can't, my heart just can't do this. So I just sat there. Help me with this. Help me, divine light, with this. Help me to do something better, because I can't do this. I can't just walk away. And so I saw this light being that I really thought was me. It was really me. And it was like this snowball. And I knew that snowball was just a snowball of just divine light, like pure divine light, love. And it's just like, just fire it right in there, because that's what they're going to need when they're ready to embrace that. And you'll know that you left it for them. And then shut the door. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. My heart can do that. I did that. And then whatever that autoimmune condition was, that was part of the physicality of me, that was creating issue in my knee, of inflammation that just wasn't going away, left. But it also was very interesting to see my plight, so to speak. How many things I've been involved with. And then I know certain things, and my heart knows certain things. And then I can't leave. It doesn't feel right to leave. And so I stay for longer than I should stay. I stay for longer than is in my highest and best interest to stay. I stay for longer. Whatever that is. And I saw it again. I saw it again in that drama. And then the solution of the snowball.
I like that.
So it's almost like I've left what I know there. I've left what I will continue to access there. But I've shut the door. That is existing in its own life. I'm existing in this one. And it's not in my highest and best interest to be involved with that one. But it was fine for me to be involved that way.
Yeah. Right.
And then I could feel fine. And then I could feel fine about leaving. And if the inside piece was, I'm leaving them with no help. I'm leaving them without the help that I know is available. Whatever the drama is, now with that snowball, I'm not doing that. And so again, it was interesting to see what could bring me into an anxiety place that I wouldn't necessarily call anxiety. I just call it the way that I existed. I just call it the way that I lived life. Yeah, it's been an interesting exploration of this concept, of this particular emotion of anxiety, because I think we're all in it. I think we're all in it. I think we're all in some low level or high level place of anxiety. I think we've all learned how to live with it, or if it's gotten too high, we're not living with it. If it's just a low level anxiety, maybe we're just calling it tension. Or maybe we're just calling it stress, or maybe it is stress. But it's kind of a low level anxious stress. And, I don't know how it could be any other way, right? We've got a lot of stuff going on right now. Everywhere you turn, there's a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that you're just kind of going, how do we control that? How do we be a part of that? I can't take on any more.
Really getting windy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Like really getting windy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, but I like it when that happens, because it clears out stuff. And I think it clears out some electromagnetic stuff too. So I actually quite appreciate it. Yeah. So let's go to you for a few minutes of this. So okay. You and tension and stress and anxiety, and any of that a reality for you right now?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when you sit with the yeah, first question as you go, yeah, because you know what that is. You're kind of with that. So then I say, okay, well, is that you? Is that 100% you?
No.
Okay. So then the next question is, are you proxying for someone else or for something else? Which means more than you. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So is it in your highest and best interest to proxy for these people? Is it in your highest and best interest?
No.
Okay. That's beautiful. No, but it's a beautiful thing to ask, right? Because now you've heard that it's not. You've gotten involved with something that's bigger than you, more than you. You kind of put it in a big healing basket and said, okay, this is mine, but it's not in your highest and best interest. So then we need to recognize that we've got these people, whether it be animals or whatever, we've got these people in this basket, calling it ours to deal with, ours to be with, our burden, whatever that is, and it's actually not.
There is obviously some that's me. There's some that's not.
Right. So that's fine. So the stuff that's not, let's just make the decision to deliver that back to source. I took that on and it wasn't for me. You take care of it. You take care of it. And you're just making that a decision to let them go out of the basket and let them be delivered right back to source. And just take a breath or two and take a drink of water, because we're working with the electromagnetic you, right? So do you have water?
No, I drink it all.
Okay. Just take a second to go grab some, because I think it's actually important. Like, okay. I'll just talk. Okay. So as Laurie's just deking out to go grab some water, I'll just say out loud, this is a very important part of the whole process of shifting some things for any of us, is working with water. Water is not just an important piece for dehydration for us. It's an important piece for clearing debris, energy debris, toxic debris. Anytime we make any of these shifts, we could be letting go of metals at the same time, some toxins that we're holding on. So water is an important part of the whole journey, and water is also needed to make sure that we've got the proper electronic connections. And so pay attention to where that water's going and just share that with us. Like, where did the water intelligence take that water?
interesting because you've had me do this before, and it seems to always be the same. Like I feel it as it goes down, but it expands into my chest and like almost goes through my lungs first. I mean, it can't go into my lungs, but I feel it going around my lungs, like feeling that and into my heart, and then just flowing down.
Right.
But
Well, it will go into your lungs because your lungs are cells. So it will go into all of the cells that make up your lungs.
Well, we know that when we breathe it in or
right. Yeah.
Drinking and it goes into your lungs and
no, that's not
not that.
No, lungs don't want it that way.
No.
So that's very interesting. So you're saying consistently it finds itself into this place. So this could be dehydration is consistently in that place. So is this a dehydration place right now? No. But it is a place for added electromagnetic conducting area. Yes. Yeah. So it's like, so we're changing some things. We're expanding some things. We're shifting some things in this area. And so we need a little bit of water to do that job properly. And would this also then be an area where toxins would, yes. So this would be an area where toxins would then find their way out into the bloodstream out of you.
Okay.
So nice. And we're breathing, like taking a breath or two. And okay, so if you're giving a number to the level of stress, tension, anxiety that's left, like now that you've let that which you took on that doesn't really belong to you, that isn't really something that you're to proxy with, now that you've let that go, what would be the number for the amount of stress, tension, anxiety that's left that is you?
Out of 10?
Out of 10. Yeah, out of 10. So what's the number now?
6.
A 6. And what would the number have been previously?
So
when we
it
were
wants
proxying.
To say 10.
Okay, that's
even
good.
though I'm not feeling that, that anxiety all the time. But yeah, as we're working through it, it's like there was a lot that wasn't me that I just not really aware of.
Right. Yeah, but it's a great question, right? Because then
I always ask it because I'm an empath, so it's like I have to.
Yeah, so we're taking responsibility for stuff that is not ours. We don't have any contract to heal. We don't have any contract to take along with us. And so it's just burdening us when it really just needs to be delivered straight over to source. Okay, so now we're sitting at a 6. Okay, we're asking another question. Is it in your highest and best interest? It is divinely in your highest and best interest to have this anxiety, stress, tension sitting in your body as a 6. No. Is it in your, no. Okay. Is any of this that's in your body, that's with you, is any of this actually in your highest and best interest to be a part of?
For some reason, I'm getting a 2.
Okay. Because sometimes we are motivated by stress. We're motivated by certain tensions. So maybe it's not about all of them leaving, but it's about a level of stress that is manageable, a level of stress that inspires, a level of stress that maybe animates certain chemicals in the bloodstream, but not so much stress that it buries us or becomes problematic to us. Okay, so you've heard that. So what if that's true? So what if that's true? What if you just heard is true? Would you allow for your divine light to work with you to bring that number that's a 6, which I'm calling anxiety, stress, tension, because we don't really quite know what it is in the soup of all of that, down from a 6 to a 2 or something divinely better? And would you allow for that? Would you allow for that light within you to aid with that?
Yes.
And would your brain allow for that?
Yes.
And would your heart allow for that?
Ooh, we're getting a...
Yeah, interesting, right?
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Because my heart was part of the reason I took on the extra.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting thing to sit with, is that we don't have congruence We don't have true congruence between this head brain, this heart brain, and potentially this gut brain. And you've got two feeling brains. You've got heart and gut. So clearly, maybe heart is requiring more information. Heart is needing something. And would heart allow for divine help with that? More information.
Yes.
And you and I both being feeling people, we can feel that. We can feel that maybe you know what the information is that's coming in. I don't. I'm not getting a sense of it. And we don't need to necessarily get a sense of it. Because sometimes the information is coming in as color. It's just coming in as frequency. What frequency do we need to bring in, divinely bring in, that releases then the challenge that the heart is in? But in a graceful way, in a delicious way.
And being told that it wants more strength in its vulnerability. It wants to be vulnerable, but it doesn't always feel safe to be vulnerable.
Okay. So then more divine strength?
Even though the heart is the strongest piece, right? But that doesn't mean our heart is the strongest. We tend to think that the broken heart thing, that whole thing,
right.
We have too many words for that thing that is not as vulnerable as we make it feel.
Right. Yeah.
Like way too many names for that, heartache, heartbreak, blah. But we say it all the time. And we give it meaning.
Yeah, maybe your heart doesn't quite know its connection to your divine matrix.
It does, but it doesn't. It does, but it doesn't. Does that make sense?
Right. So then it feels like that connection is being strengthened.
Mm-hmm. It's softened.
And I didn't want to say it. I heard it, but I didn't want to say it, and I didn't want to speak it out loud, but I feel like I can now. Your heart's connection to infinite love and gratitude. Mm. And that is a strength.
Yeah.
That is a strength, because the heart is then starting to know that I am infinite. Mm. I am part of something infinite. I am part of something infinite.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Funny, it feels like in the heart, knowing that, it's like the heart can take the lead.
Now.
Because it knows that.
Right.
Okay, so I have another question for you. We saw the 6 coming down to a 2, like the number 2, like will bring the stress, tension, anxiety to a 2. Because maybe then that number 2 is needed, that level. But I'm asking, is that still needed?
No, I think it can be a 1 or lower. It's like, when you asked, it was like, well, there's just so much out here. Like there's just so much we have that's bombarding us all the time. The only time we feel complete is when I can sit in myself and just be open. Like when I can sit and be, okay, this is my time. Like this is a me time that I can just connect and feel that connection where, it's just like, we just keep forgetting. It's like, why do we keep forgetting?
Why do we keep forgetting?
It's like, whenever my laptop takes 10 hours to do something. I was like, I always forget. All it is it's a Microsoft update, but I always forget. And I'm like trying to do all these things. And then it's like, oh, Laurie, it's just an update. It's like, why you like, it's like we forget. It's like, how many times do I have to do this that I can just, yeah. So it's like when you said, what do we need? What would I need to be more balanced? It's like what said, well, there's just so much happening, but a 2 would be really nice. But now it's saying,
Yeah. Well, that was also about that particular grouping of anxiety, stress, tension for wherever it was that you were.
Right.
And that you were living in. So then you could see the idea of bringing it back to a 2. But maybe understanding that is just one ball, not the world, but just one ball that you got involved with. Then maybe that can get delivered completely out. But I felt like now that the heart knows its connection to infinity, it knows its relationship with infinity. I felt like the heart can lead now.
Right.
The heart can lead now. And it didn't feel like it needed to be inspired by that stress, tension, anxiety.
Right.
To take the next step. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So can we just then intend working with that divine light? Do we have head good with this? Heart good with this? Gut good with this? All master brains good with this? Bringing that 6 of anxiety, tension, stress from the 6 to the 0. Or something divinely better. So if it needs to be at 1, fine. We're going to leave it to divine.
Right.
Okay. So with your intention that we're bringing this 6 to a 0 or something divinely better, then we're allowing for that to happen. And we're releasing all of that anxiety back to source, all of that anxiety, stress, tension now, right now. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Back to source. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Back to source. All of it back to source. And where's the water going?
It's not doing the same thing. It's just going right down.
But it's interesting, the feeling, right? Like it's just this upside down waterfall going right out through the top of your head.
What we get to accomplish in our in our shows here.
Yeah, I know. Well, this was interesting because I felt like I didn't know we were going to get involved with the infinity world.
Yeah.
But it felt like I have to sit and contemplate this. Like this is kind of like worth meditating on, like to get a heart really knowing not only its connection to that divine matrix, like really just nice, beautiful connection to that divine matrix, like the divine matrix everywhere within us, that core, beautiful divine intelligence. But to have that heart then knowing of its connection to infinite love and gratitude. Its connection to the infinite universe. And to know its connection to infinity, to have a relationship, a real relationship with infinity.
Yeah.
I have to sit with that because it just felt like the next thing that landed was just, now it can lead. Now it can lead. And I think this is true. Now it can lead because it's no longer concerned about its own death. Like it's no longer concerned. It's not about a living and dying thing. It's just about this continued existence, this continued experience. Like that's what I think just happened.
Wow.
But what do I know? But it felt right. It felt like, okay, this heart can lead now.
Well, it is news for the heart.
And maybe lead the others so that the brain can then start to engage in that same truth, connection to that divine matrix and connection to the infinite universe and the gut. And so it's leading the way for these three master brains to come into alignment, but it's leading. And that's what Greg Braden actually said in one of his talks. He actually said that, there are different memories, which I've always known, different memories in the head brain to the heart brain to the gut brain. And sometimes what's happening is that we're still sitting in some trauma because we have not engaged with the memories that were the memories at heart. We have not brought those to peace. We have not done that work with those memories at heart. And then he said, heart then connects to the brain. Heart then informs the brain. And the brain is connected to all the senses. So the heart then tells the brain how it is for it, for the heart. And then we start to see it that way. And we start to feel it that way. And we start to reach out or not reach out from how the heart sees things. And I thought that was really, really, really cool thing for him to have said. And I didn't know I was going to bring that forward. But again, it was in one of those free talks that people can have access to, that they're all over the internet with Greg Braden. That this one was interesting. It was interesting.
Wow. All right. Well, we probably should end the show because we've gone over a little bit. We're going to have the video that will be complete and the audio will have some spaces removed. Wow. Okay. Well, this has been a powerful show, maybe for me more than anybody, but shit.
Listen, I'm going into meditation about this now.
So you have been listening to The Heart. We've been getting the heart of what matters with Tracy McBurney, from anxiety to the infinite heart. All right. Thanks, Tracy.
All right. Love you.
Love you too.